Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy. Welcome to One to One. You've likely seen Shark Tank, the TV show where hopeful entrepreneurs pitch everything from wearable blankets to smiley face scrub sponges to a panel of potential and often skeptical investors. The lucky few have gone on to become multimillionaires. The expanding world of technology has created endless possibilities for new businesses. However, these opportunities aren't equally available to those who lack access to potential investors, mentors, and business development opportunities to scale their enterprises. Fernando Montejo heads up Venture Access NYC, an initiative launched by the New York City Economic Development Corporation, which is working to address inequities in the startup world. His goal is to bring essential knowledge and connections to women, people of color, and others who might otherwise be left behind. He'll share how the city's Founder Fellowship program aims to close this gap. Also joining us, startup founders Kimberly Gray and Lola Amishere, who will discuss how the program has impacted their entrepreneurial journeys. Welcome to all of you. Fernando, according to you, in 2021, $330 billion in funding was raised by U.S. startups. But women entrepreneurs were only 2% of that, only got 2% of that money, and Blacks and Latinos only 3%. Also, in 2021, $50 billion was invested in New York City-based startups, while Black and Latino founders received only 5% of the total venture capital investment. Why is that? Why such an inequity?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, and so great to be able to chat with a couple of Founder Fellows. The tech ecosystem has continued to grow, both nationally, globally, in New York City, and we've been really excited to see that growth and see how it affects and influences so many different industries. But the reality is it's not equitable in terms of who is getting access to build companies, to get access to venture capital, to business development opportunities. And while New York City is the most diverse city in the country, we are not immune to those challenges here. Historically, the tech ecosystem has really been driven by a very few homogenous community of people. And what we're trying to do here in New York City is really level the playing field and open up access to those opportunities that tech is creating across industries, across different opportunities, whether it's access to venture capital, access to new talent that folks like Lola and Kimberly need in order to scale their businesses. We want to be able to create those opportunities so that those companies and those leaders, innovators, can actually grow and scale their businesses right here in New York City.
And also so that those communities that are being left out will have more income, more capital, more assets.
More economic mobility.
Right, and the city will have more tax revenues.
Absolutely.
It all goes together, right? You said that New York City is the world's second largest tech ecosystem. What are the stats? Do you have any stats?
Yeah, so we track a lot of metrics, but we are the #2 tech ecosystem in the world by such metrics as startup valuation, the number of startups created, the amount of venture capital invested in our startups in New York City, and many other metrics that really define, our overall ecosystem, including the number of companies that exit, that IPO, that reach, that go public. So by those metrics, we are the #2 ecosystem behind the Bay Area.
Okay. Tell me about Venture Access. I looked on their website, heard a lot of new words, like the New York Venture Industry Incubator, accelerators, a whole different kind of jargon.
Yeah.
Tell me about that program.
Absolutely. So Venture Access NYC is the city's signature initiative to make sure that as the tech ecosystem in New York City grows, whether it's startups, investors, et cetera, that we grow in a way that really reflects New Yorkers. We believe that right now, as you mentioned, we are #2 in the world for tech. We want to be #1. And the way that we get there, the way that we become the world's best ecosystem is by really leveraging what makes us different, what I believe is our superpower, which is our diversity of people, of talent, of industries, And if we really bring as many New Yorkers into the fold to pursue entrepreneurship, to think about being the next investors, we can really become number one.
The Founders Fellowship Program is a very specific
That's right.
program aimed at doing that. How exactly does it work?
Yeah, so the Founder Fellowship is the first program to come out of Venture Access NYC. And the purpose of the Founder Fellowship is to identify and support a community of traditionally underserved, underrepresented founders, entrepreneurs who are building their startups, their tech and tech-enabled companies here in New York City, and afford them access to opportunities, to investors, to mentors, to business development opportunities to really help build their enterprises and also grow as leaders and innovators themselves.
So you actually have, people have these ideas for businesses that they want to create, or maybe they've already created and they just need a boost. So they apply to you, and what's the process after that?
The way that the Founder Fellowship runs is we'll find partners who can actually run this accelerator program on our behalf and really provide the expertise, the knowledge, the programming, and the resources that founders need in order to build and scale their companies here. As an example, this year we're working with 4 partners, and so we have 4 cohorts of 15 companies across each partner. And so those 60 companies are considered Founder Fellows. They get access to the resources. They apply to become part of the program. For these 60 spots in 2024, we had over 800 applications.
Wow.
So there's clearly lots of demand and need really for these types of programs.
Kimberly, how did you find out about this program and
Yes.
become a founder?
Well, like Fernando said, they had 800 different companies apply, and I actually heard about it through Bank of America because we've been doing some piloting with them. And yeah, I decided to apply. You know, within that, we were with Chloe Capital. So, you know, having an initiative that really supports entrepreneurs was really important to us. And being able to connect with other founders in New York City that are building businesses in New York City to support New York City, it was an amazing experience. And connecting with, obviously, with investors and identifying more partnership opportunities, right? Because sometimes it's not always just about money, it's about relationships and those introductions and building a team. And I think, you know, as a minority founder, sometimes we don't have those support systems. So programs like this are very important.
Lola, how did you get connected with the program?
Yeah, I found out about it through Queens College Tech Incubator. It was a random email, and I heard about it, and I felt intimidated, honestly. I'm from healthcare, so the idea of technology was a little newer to me. I was building a business, but it wasn't tech-centric. And so it forced me to expand my model, my vision, and how I could scale it. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take on the challenge, and it's been nothing but great since then.
Fernando, do the founders have to be tech-centric? Is that what we're looking at here?
The founders themselves don't have to be tech-centric. What they're building has to be tech or tech-enabled, right?
Okay.
So it can be a software technology, or it can be a company that is looking to grow by using technology to really scale their operations.
So you get connected to, you get accepted, you know, as a founder fellow. Then what happens?
So a lot of the programming for us was virtual. So, you know, we'll do different meetups. We also had some time at WeWork. But I think it's really about, you know, building your pitch deck, getting yourself prepared for investors, making sure you have all the things you need for that. And then at the end, we did a big pitch event. And from that, I received a lot of investor introductions and partnership opportunities. So it's really a great community. And because there's so many cohorts, you get to go to a lot of different events. So it's been good stuff.
Is it like Shark Tank? I mean, that's what we all, you know, that's what we see. Is it like Shark Tank?
I wouldn't say so, but it prepares you for those conversations to have with investors, right? To be able to answer the hard questions like how are you going to scale? How are you going to make money? Mm-hmm. You know, why should I invest in you over some other people? The thing about Shark Tank is some of those margins are a little crazy. They're like, give up your life for 25%, you know? So in that sense, I think this is more real world, right? And this is how businesses operate, you know, within the VC community.
There are partners. Tell me about the partners, you know, because you have the founders,
Right.
and you also have the partners.
That's right.
Who are they?
So as we were mentioning, we have multiple cohorts each year of the Founder Fellowship that are led by our partners. So for example, Kimberly participated in the cohort led by Chloe Capital, which is a VC firm that primarily invests in women-led companies. And then Lola participated in our Founder Fellowship cohort at the Tech Incubator at Queens College. And so these are our partners. They're the ones who are the experts really in supporting and preparing entrepreneurs for the next steps in their journey. And then where EDC comes in is, in addition to supporting our partners, we also look to connect the founders with our community, whether it's access to different city agencies, to different investors in our community. I also run, as part of the Venture Access Initiative, a program called the Venture Access Alliance, which is a community of investors that is really committed to investing more of their capital in underrepresented founders. So that's all part of it.
So you have the founders, you have the partners, and then you have the venture capitalists.
That's right.
Those are the three parts. Okay. Lola, tell me about how you got into this business and what your company is all about.
I just wanted to solve a problem that I was having. I'm a physical therapist and I see my patients in their homes, and I'm like, there has to be a more efficient way to do this. And so I built a clinic that was portable. But then as I started talking to more investors and grew within the program, they wanted to know, how are you disrupting? How are you scaling? How are you making this a vision that can impact millions and not thousands? And so it grew from a solution for me to a new way of delivering and bringing access to physical therapy for all. Yeah.
There seems to be, I guess because baby boomers are getting older, there seems to be a huge demand for physical therapists in New York City.
Yeah.
A place I go, and it's a brick and mortars kind of physical therapy place. But sometimes my therapist is working with 2 or 3 other people at the same time that she's working with me. Mm-hmm. What did you see as the need there?
On both sides, people weren't happy. The turnaround or turnover with physical therapists is extremely high. So 1 to 2 years in, they're already leaving that practice. And then with patients, the turnover is even higher. After 3 or 4 visits, they're leaving. So both sides aren't happy. Why are we continuing to deliver care in the same way when neither sides are being given what they need to flourish?
Yeah.
And so for me, it was figuring out a way, how can I make my counterparts happy, physical therapists, and then how do I still deliver the care that patients want? Care delivered to where they live, where they work, or where they play, because that will eliminate the barriers that pretty much keep you from getting the care that you need.
So you have come up with a mobile unit,
Yes.
right? And how did you put the whole thing together about what did you learn in the Queens College Incubator about how to put this all together?
Well, the funny thing is I already came with it having been built.
Oh, okay.
But then I had to figure out how to market it. And so when you're talking to venture capitalists, they may not be moved by like the social impact. They want to know, as you said, how are you going to make money?
Yeah.
How are you going to scale? How do you get your margins to be higher and your overhead expenses lower? So I learned a different language. I learned how to make something that was socially impactful also palatable to people who were money centric.
Yeah.
Okay. And how is this mobile unit? Is it completed?
Yes.
Okay. And how is it going to operate? I think you told me you had 3 different
Yes.
clients.
Yeah,
you
we
know?
have our big partner, which is Mount Sinai, New York's top hospital, and that was a connection that we got through EDC. Mm-hmm. Yes, the company Ventures made an introduction to one of Mount Sinai's departments, and then they took us on. And from there, we are partnering with other organizations that are community-based and serve New Yorkers so that we can be their on-site physical therapy provider.
One is an actual residence, right? Is it
Yeah.
a residence?
One's an independent living facility.
Okay.
Another is a federally qualified health center that serves over 10,000 people each year. And they want us to provide services to all of their beneficiaries.
And my big question when I heard about this is mobile unit. What are you going to do about parking? Where are you going to park?
Yes, yes, and that question comes up a lot with investors. They want to
Yeah.
understand the logistics. So we even have a slide for all the logistic questions. But yeah, we have garages and different permits that allow us to park places that you typically wouldn't be able to park.
Wow, that's a big undertaking for somebody who is going around to different people's homes,
Yes.
giving physical therapy. Kimberly, tell me about your business.
Absolutely. So I'm
But
the-
first of all, how you started in the fashion.
Yes, I
industry,
was
right?
in film production. I was working with Spike Lee. I was a celebrity stylist. I think my first shoot was with The Roots. I went to Howard University. Both my parents are retired DC public school principals, so I always wanted to effect some type of change as a leader, right? And when I was at Howard, I told my parents, look, I want to move to New York City. I want to be a fashion editor of a hip hop magazine. They said, you're crazy. By 21, I was a fashion editor of 2 magazines. I think my first shoot was with The Roots. So I accomplished a lot of goals, like really young. I've always been a serial entrepreneur. I opened the first 3D, 4D ultrasound center in Harlem for prenatal photography. So we did the little teddy bears with a baby heartbeat inside, gender recognition. And then I got into tech, first working with a fashion startup ad tech company. So basically a little bit of what I was doing before, working with luxury brands, and in this case connecting them with bloggers. It was called Fashaholic. So it was around that time that I got inspired to start my own company, which is Uvi. And we're a New York City-based software company. We also work with the city, and CUNY is one of our big customers. But I realized on social media, why is it that we cannot respond with a video comment to a post on Instagram or Facebook? And that's what really inspired me to create Action Command Messaging, which is a technology that allows you to share any type of text to the video capture screen or the audio record screen in real time. So from that came a video-enabled survey application called InSync. And we help businesses instantly communicate with their customers with actionable data. Think about it. Nobody really likes to do surveys, right? Because they're not user-centric. There's nothing in it for the customer, and there's a latency in responses. So we started off really during COVID selling to higher education, working with city agencies to create these video responses, feedbacks for students. So with us, we have a service model, which are these sponsored surveys, which can be displayed on different campuses or with smart city agencies, because we're talking about 2.7 million New Yorkers living below the poverty line. Mm-hmm. So if I can respond and give feedback and get some marketplace rewards in exchange for that, it's a huge revenue opportunity for New York City, right? And then, like Lola said, but we want to see scale. That's a service model, Kimberly. But for enterprise, I'm integrating this technology for CRM, right? To personalize instantaneous messaging with customers, because 65% of business owners don't know what their customers are thinking in real time.
We all get these surveys. When I go to the doctor, I get from the medical center,
Right.
How was your experience?
Exactly.
And you tell them. Mm-hmm. But now, not only can you tell them by text, mm-hmm. but, then your face appears on the screen and you can talk to them.
Yes.
I had to wait for an hour before I see the doctor, whatever.
Yes.
And, all kinds of businesses and organizations have these surveys. Mm-hmm. So what's new is being able to respond in a video.
You got it.
Okay.
Yeah. And with that on the back end, what makes it really interesting is that we're doing all the transcription and the tags. So we're taking this unstructured data and turning it into real information that's tangible for sales, for customer service, customer success teams to manage their clients.
I was the last American to get a smartphone. So this just tells you how technocentric I am. Mm-hmm. How did you learn to do the technology to make this happen?
And I want to speak to that. I'm a non-technical founder, right? So let's get with it, right? So I did a lot of research. I went to, my first dev team was in India. And I had 2 teams. I'm like, well, I'm going to India. I'm like, who are these people I'm sending money to every month, right? And I think from there I was able to build out my own team. But, it really just started with pen to paper. I had a sketch of what I wanted to look like. I did a provisional patent. That process was a lot, a good amount of money. And then my first rejection, they said, oh, this is like Google Cloud. So I had to overcome a Google patent to get my patent. Okay. But I am a non-technical founder. I'm just, learning to code. It's really not as difficult as people make it out to seem, but I want to say that because you don't have to know all of these technical skills. There is a very big learning curve in terms of you having the right team to support that. But don't be afraid if you're non-technical.
Okay, I want to ask you, and then Lola, how the Founder Fellows Program helped you specifically?
Yes. Well, I think we're still just getting started with that. Fernando's been making some amazing introductions with some very high-profile VC firms, and we're also talking about other partnership opportunities, again, to drive revenue with the city with these partnerships. One of our big clients has been Hearst Communications, so we've been doing some supplier diversity surveys with them. So we're going to definitely identify other opportunities to work with agencies and work with NYC EDC.
Okay, Lola?
Yeah, I'm 1 year removed from the Founder Fellowship, and what it forced me to do over and over was to speak in public, which is my Achilles heel, and I hate to do it. But here we are again.
Okay.
And I was forced over and over to be able to tell my story in a way that resonates. People will not part with money unless the story resonates. They want to believe in what they're giving money to. Even if it doesn't succeed, at least they believed in the vision. And what I got from Founder Fellowship, we did like a 3-day, 8-hour each day program where they forced us to discover our why and how to sell it, how to understand what people would receive when we're telling our story. And that has proven to be, for me, very lucrative. We secured a $150,000 investment from a healthcare firm in Nashville, Tennessee. We've won 6 pitch competitions. The most recently, a $20,000 prize from Queens Economic Development Commerce. Yes, and it's only going up from there. We've also won a Verizon pitch competition. There's another pitch competition that I'm doing tomorrow. And for me, this is a way of not giving away my equity, but still keeping money coming in while we're building our business, selling to enterprises, and then showing investors that we don't have to rely on their money, but their money will help us scale more quickly.
Okay, Kimberly, how about money? Have you gotten money?
Yes, absolutely. So we're just launching our seed round now, but I was lucky, after that whole Google thing, for Google to invest in us as a Black Founders Fund. I just found out we're a semifinalist in the Black Ambition.
Oh, so am I.
So, I have been able to raise money. I'm looking to raise more, and this is a good time for that, so I'm glad to be here today.
So, everybody learns lessons from these kinds of programs. We've got about 4 minutes left, and I want to hear from each of you, starting with you, Fernando, about what lessons were learned from this program.
Absolutely. So many lessons. I think the first one is anyone can be an entrepreneur, right? And I think the word entrepreneurship, and as you mentioned earlier, the lingo, the language of entrepreneurship and technology can often be a setback for many people, right? It makes you less inclined to want to dive into it. And I think what I've learned is you can find entrepreneurship and innovators, people who are coming up with solutions in their communities and beyond, in every part of the city, across every industry. And actually what makes New York City special is that we have people who come from different parts of the world, who are born in different communities and different cultures, and that in itself allows them to think broadly about how you innovate and how you come up with new solutions to challenges.
Lola?
Healthcare is very different than the world I'm in now. We're not used to selling ourselves. We are used to getting the job done because there's a need and we can fix it. This world showed me that I can impact so many more people if I invested in my relationships. Every partnership that I've gotten so far has been through a warm introduction from someone in my network that I actually got introduced to through EDC. In healthcare, we think if we do a good job, then the money and success will follow, and it's not the case because people don't see what you're doing. So EDC taught me how to show what I'm doing, to show the impact so people can be aware of it and help us to further our mission.
Kimberly?
I couldn't agree more. Relationships are key. It's because of relationships that we're sitting here right now, right? And you have to build your community through, warm introductions and relationships, because those are going to lead to strategic opportunities to grow your business, right? So I'm just glad that I'm an MWBE, I'm a New York City state vendor. So with our surveys, we can really impact communities, get feedback for the city, get feedback for CUNY, and feedback for brands that want to do more businesses here.
Fernando, I know the program has only been in effect for the Founders Fellows for what, 2 years, 3 years?
3 years, that's right.
3 years. What kind of impact can you?
Absolutely. We started in 2022 with just a small pilot with 8 companies, and I'm really happy to say that today we have over 160 companies that have participated in the program out of more than 1,400 that have applied. So I think the demand is really there, and we're so excited to continue this program for years to come. And then, for example, last year's cohort, during the program, they were able to raise more than $12 million collectively. Their valuation combined increased by over 112 million. During the program, they hired about 80 employees, and they had introductions to over 300 investors. So this is a type of impact that we want to continue seeing as part of the Founder Fellowship. And of course, we want to continue growing with the founders as they continue their journey as well.
The code word these days is, the hot thing is artificial intelligence.
That's
is that
right.
something that's part of this?
Yeah,
Yes.
I would love to speak to that because generative AI, like it's the future, right? And as a SaaS company, as a software company, in order for AI to be successful, it needs data, right? And a lot of things we're dealing with now is copyright infringement with these training tools. So having a technology that actually can create data for companies, for business intelligence, it just can magnify everything so much faster in terms of business communication, in terms of understanding people's needs in the moment.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm very glad to hear about, the ideas that you came up with, things that people need, and a program that helped you figure out a way to get those services to people, and women of color. So it sounds like a great program, and I appreciate your coming and telling us about it today.
Yes, thanks for having us, Cheryl.
Yes, thank
And
you, Cheryl.
the deadline for new applicants is coming up
Yes,
soon, right?
so we're going to be launching the next cycle of applications this fall. So look out for more information there.
Okay. And where could people find out the information?
Absolutely. They can go to our website, edc.nyc, and you can apply or get more information about Venture Access there.
Okay, great. I'm afraid we're out of time, but I want to thank Kimberly Gray, CEO of Uvi, the innovator behind InSync, and Lola Omishire, CEO of Theramotive, for joining me today, and Fernando Montejo, Assistant Vice President at the New York City Economic Development Corporation and Head of Venture Access NYC. To learn about our upcoming shows, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, at 121 CUNY TV. For 121 and CUNY TV, I'm Cheryl McCarthy.